Hey, welcome back, friends. Today we've got a special guest. This is Eric Landis. He's the product manager for the Imagine line over at Grand Design. And we're going to have an interview with him today. We're going to ask him some tough questions. And he's not completely sure what I'm going to ask him. But yeah, I'm excited. Eric, you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Hey, everybody.
All right, let's do this. Okay, friends, we're going to jump right in. As I mentioned before, Eric is the product manager for the Imagine line over at Grand Design. And so just to start, tell us about what is a product manager, at least at Grand Design. And how did you get to that role?
Product manager, at least in my role, is basically the ultimate support vessel for the overall team, the Imagine team. I'm very fortunate to be a part of the Imagine team, and I have my fingers in basically every aspect that Imagine is involved with. That could be plant level, making the rounds to 3 different plants, putting a smile on line workers' face, giggling with them, making sure that they're having a good day,
right.
Working directly with the plant managers to make sure we're running efficiently, involved with our purchasing agents, involved with our engineering staff to then come up with floor plans and designs, features, amenities, etc. Also being a part of the sales team and guiding them, helping educate them on our processes, on our product, why we do certain things within the production process.
Okay.
And then also dealer level, making sure that they're taken care of, listening to their feedback on what's what and what the retail customers are asking for, etc.
Right.
Yeah, so again, it is having my hand in basically every aspect from start to finish.
Everything Imagine kind of funnels up to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a fair assessment.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
All right, so we know what the product manager does, at least at Grand Design. How did you get there? Like, how would one start off, work from the bottom and go up? Like, how did you get there?
Sure, I think it's probably a very similar path for a lot of product managers within the industry. I've been very fortunate to be in the industry for almost 17 years now, and I started out at a sales position. I was a district sales manager for 11 years, and I remember it really clearly. I was at a show and walking product, and essentially was seeing things that I wouldn't necessarily agree with, and thought to myself, you know what, I bet I can do better than this.
Right.
I was very fortunate at the time to have a great brand that I was selling, and I ultimately made the decision to step away from my territory and get into the product manager side, the management side of things, and it kind of took off from there. Again, 17 years has gone by unbelievably quick, and I've learned a lot, and I feel very fortunate to have been able to earn a role within Grand Design, and I've been there for roughly 3 years, and I have no regrets. It's an outstanding company to work for, outstanding product to work for, and we preach one thing every day. It's a team effort. There's not one individual, it's not one salesperson, not one purchasing agent, not one plant manager. It is a team effort.
Right.
And I think ultimately that's why we are in the position that we are in the market.
Well, I can tell you in the little insider info here, Grand Design went after Eric. So they came after him. So he's very talented. But here's we're going to get into a couple of tough questions.
Okay, let it rip.
All right, Eric, time for a tough question. The gray elephant in the room, supply chain. What are you guys seeing? What challenges are you still seeing? Is it getting better? What have you learned from it? And it's industry-wide, we know that.
Yeah.
What are you seeing on your side, from your standpoint?
Yeah, certainly it's been a very interesting, we'll call it rolling 20 months.
Right.
It is one fickle beast, that's for sure. We're very fortunate, part of our team, we have some of the most outstanding purchasing agents, and the second that we got the inkling that there was going to be some issues, we started to diversify, and that, partner up with other vendors that we typically weren't associated with, and try to get ahead of things. And that can only last so long because everyone is in the same boat. We relied pretty heavily, and still are, on relationships with these particular vendors that we've been doing business with, and then new vendors.
Right.
Well, I wish I had that crystal ball just like everybody else.
Yeah, I know.
It used to be a month by month, then it was a week by week, and then it was a day by day. But one thing that we have done is we haven't sacrificed our integrity. We haven't changed our processes.
Right.
If push come to shove, we will run a unit short out the door. That unit gets PDI'd, then goes outside. When we get the raw product, we then install, and then we bring it back in and do a second PDI.
Right.
And unfortunately, we've been having to do that a significant amount of time.
Right.
But I think the bigger picture is.
So just to be clear, I understand what you're saying, but just to be clear for these guys, what Eric's saying is sometimes they don't have something, they have to PDI it, put it out on the lot. They don't deliver it to a dealer.
Correct.
It has to sit there for a minute until they get the part they need, and you're not sacrificing that, right?
Correct.
And they get the part they need, then they'll put that part in, and then they'll PDI it again.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is going to get into another question we have in just a second, but
Sure.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
just
you're
want to
fine.
clarify. Right.
Yeah. I don't know, and again, I wish I had that crystal ball.
Right.
I don't think we're out of the woods yet. I think
Right.
it's going to haunt us for a little bit more time. It could
Right.
be 6 months, it could be a year, I don't know. We try not to pay attention to the news, and we all have
Right.
seen those cargo ships sitting out at the ports.
Right.
And certainly we have a lot of product sitting on that. So,
Right. Just like everyone.
everyone.
Not just
You go to any
cars,
restaurant or any
Yep.
home goods store and see empty shelves. Everyone is experiencing the exact same thing.
Yep.
And again, we wish we had that crystal ball, but we are going to continue relying and leaning on those relationships with our vendors,
Right.
in hopes that we have the most solid relationship.
Right.
But it's a process. It's
Yep.
a process for sure.
All right, I got my questions here on the phone. Make sure I don't forget any of these. I wrote these down. Eric, you haven't seen them yet.
No.
Yeah, so he's kind of
Shooting at the hip.
Shooting at the hip, right? So let's talk about Imagine a little bit.
Okay.
Imagine line saw some big changes for 2022. I appreciate you guys had me to Hershey to help unveil that. We appreciate that. That was a lot of fun.
No, you did an outstanding job, so thank you.
I enjoyed it. So, what does that process look like when you make big changes like that? When you decide to revamp the whole exterior, when you decide to go from we have the darker color interior, now it's like what is it called, a pebble, I think?
Yep.
Lighter interior. So what does that look like? Who comes up with that? How many ideas come in, and how many ideas actually make it into production?
Yeah, it's a tricky question to answer in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
As the product manager, it's my responsibility to come up with the exterior aspects, the interior decors, etc., the floor plans.
Right.
I typically try to operate on an 18 to 24 month head start.
Okay.
I'll have line items for line items, and as we progress, that will change 100 different times.
Right.
Once we get a little bit closer and we start protoing through some of the items that are on that list, we will make our best educated decision. And that's not just of what feedback that I get from my salespeople, it's coming to the retail shows, talking with customers, talking with retail salespeople. Because at the end of the day, they are at the ground level. They're talking with the right people, getting that necessary feedback in order to progress our product. So we have a direct line with a lot of retail salespeople that have the willingness to share their stories.
Well, and I know you get a lot of info for social media.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you guys.
Social media's monster, right?
Yep.
And then once we progress through the protoing stages, we make the decision. We'll weigh the benefits versus the cons, cost analysis, etc.
Right.
And if it makes sense for the overall brand, then we'll progress forward with it.
Yep. Well, I see you see things going even throughout the year. They don't necessarily. It's not like a model year of a car, of a vehicle. Somebody will suggest, hey, why can you guys just put some hooks right here? So all of a sudden the hooks start showing up.
Yep.
And so you're just listening to people, and if you can do it, and the quicker you can do it, and improve it throughout the year.
We say we design in motion, meaning if there's a benefit for the product, there's no reason for us to wait to implement, because it's going to serve the greater good.
Yeah.
Right? If we can get it to market quicker versus waiting for a model year, we'll do so, because we know in our hearts of hearts that's what needs to happen to the product.
And it's interesting for me, as I've gone through these units year after year, you can see the little nuances, and you can tell people were camping in that and wanted that there. Again, like something like hooks, or something like storage in the shower, or anything like that. And they just find a way a lot of times to do it. And not just you guys, it's industry wide, but these guys do a great job of that, and that's one of the reasons we love the brand. All right, COVID campers.
Okay.
All right, you guys, I know you guys wanted these tough questions. And so COVID campers, You can only speak for Grand Design Imagine,
Sure.
right? What are you seeing? What is that like? You kind of spoke to it earlier. You talked about the PDI process, and then you had to have them sit in the lot, and then you PDI them again. Have your processes changed?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very fair question. The reality is, because of supply chain, I mean, we're talking down to, it could be staples that we're running short, or water
Right.
heaters. I mean, it's a slew of different items, right?
Right.
If we have to put a unit out the door incomplete, we will.
And by out the door, you're not sending them to a dealer.
Yeah.
Just
Sorry.
making sure.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's fair.
right.
That's fair.
It's they're storing them.
Yep. So the process, it will come down the production line, and once it's cleared production, then goes to our PDI process. 280 plus different checkpoints that we'll go through. It will then go out into our holding yard until we receive our raw product. We will then install accordingly, and then bring it back through the plant to do a second PDI. Because at the end of the day, the reality is, once it leaves the production facility and goes into a yard, we then are going back in it. That means we need to take that responsibility,
Right.
re-clean, retest, make sure all is good, and it gets that stamp of approval, and then it's off to the dealership.
Right. And I can promise you, these guys don't want these units coming back.
No.
It doesn't make sense for them business-wise.
Yep.
So.
For us, we live and die by multiple golden rules, but one of those is, if you take care of the small things, the big
Right.
things will take care of themselves. And it better be these little things that we do that separate us from everybody else. And I think that's probably the case, as our brand has really catapulted within the
Absolutely.
market. And we're very fortunate, because we don't take anything for granted. There is nothing that's given to us. Everything is earned. And again, it's one cohesive team, and I could not be more proud to be part of it.
Right. And that's one thing. The one thing that, talking about quality control, the one thing that sold me on Grand Design early on, way before we were ambassadors or any of that stuff, Don Clark was doing it. Don Clark helped start Grand Design, still I guess he's CEO still.
Mm-hmm.
He was sitting down for an interview, and one of the first things he said is like, these things aren't perfect. Humans build them. They're not perfect, but we're going to make it right when they're not perfect.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm very appreciative of that.
Oh,
So,
thank you very much.
and I've watched these guys a little bit behind the scenes deal with this whole COVID crisis, and the increase in demand. You guys have had a huge increase in demand, and all of the rumors flying. And I'm sure some of them are true in some aspects, but I do think that PDI process that you guys do, you guys PDI them twice, all of them. Is that correct?
So coming down the line, we have individual PDI stations,
Right.
Midline inspection. Our group leaders are also in charge of doing their line inspections. And then once it is production complete,
Right.
we then go to the PDI line, and then that whole gamut of checklists that go
Right.
through. Yeah.
So they're PDI'd in their electrical, and then they're PDI'd overall.
Sure. Yep,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. All right, guys, just to recap on the whole COVID thing, you guys are still, processes are still the same, still doing the PDIs, like plumbing PDI and then overall PDI, or electrical PDI and then overall PDI. So everything gets PDI twice, kind of speaking.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, okay.
Yeah. And then
Cool.
up to 3 times.
Right. If they has to
need
go
be.
out and then come back in. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So that's a significant investment.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the moral of the story is, we operate under the understanding that we are not perfect.
Right.
And there are going to be things that we miss.
Mhm.
However, our processes are in place in order to do better each and every day. Now, when we find something that is not right, we take care of it right then and there. And that's the whole point of our special PDI, is the fact that if we find something coming down the line that's of issue, we have the luxury of going straight to where that issue is,
Right.
resolving it right away, and then we're off to the races again.
You've already got the part, you've
Yep.
got whatever you need.
The processes are in place to make sure that we're building the best possible product for our customers. I tell our salespeople all the time, it's not one ticket item that separates us from everybody. It better be the 30 or 40 little things that we do that create that value. And ultimately, I think our customer base sees that value, and that's why we are doing so well within the market.
Right. I mean, you guys were growing before the whole COVID thing. You guys were knocking it out. So,
Yep.
Eric, I appreciate it, man.
I appreciate
It's a pleasure to talk with Eric, and we go back and forth. I give him feedback about our unit and our experiences, and it's just always a pleasure dealing with you, man. I appreciate you doing this too.
Hey, I couldn't be happier to do it for you.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Thanks.